views expressed on the following broadcasts do not necessarily reflect those of KHLT, Take 12 Radio, or our affiliates. The opinions on this show are those of the host, co-host, and guest. Take 12 Radio and KHLT Recovery Broadcasting are not affiliated with any particular 12-step fellowship.
What kind of a show are you guys putting on here today?
Get ready for a no-nonsense approach to recovery. It's that guy who's living the dream rather than dreaming of living. You know him as the Addiction Doctor. Now, here's the Monty Man to introduce Dr. Robb Kelly on this episode of Take 12 Recovery Radio's The Robb Kelly Hour.
Doing a little jig, dancing a little dance. That's right, it is the Robb Kelly Hour with the world's addiction doctor. Dr. Robb Kelly is on the phone from San Antonio, Texas. Just out of a major overhaul on his bod, dealing with surgery, and he is on the phone with us, and we're so fortunate to have him. Dr. Robb, how the heck are you, buddy?
Monty, I'm doing absolutely amazing, especially as I'm on this show. This is my first day up and around after about a week, 4 days in hospital. So up and around, first day, and somebody tells me I have the Monty Man at 12 o'clock, you bet it's a good day.
Well, bless your heart, brother. We are so privileged to have you on every month. We talk about this show in particularly as a no-nonsense approach to recovery because we don't put up with any nonsense, right?
Correct, exactly. And that brings me to the point today that we're going to talk about, and that's sponsorship, which I know you'd be excited to hear and get into. We're going to have a good conversation here, Monty, do you think?
Yes, I think so. Absolutely. Let's do it.
So one of the things that I've been noticing over the 30-odd years that I've been around, I get to travel all over the world sometimes with speaking and presentations and lecturing around the world. And what I see over the years and years is kind of the decline in 12 steps groups that I see. And I put it down to two things. I put it down to Alcoholics Anonymous allowing people to come in with the treatment center attitude. That's what first happened in the early days. And they sent everyone to AA, and what happened is AA buckled. And other 12 steps meetings after. I see that going on every single day. But I also see people sponsoring these young guys or early guys when they come in the rooms with not the proper knowledge and equipment to be doing this. You see, the book is categorically pinpoint when it tells us that his attention should be drawn to you, a recovered alcoholic. So what the book's saying is if you haven't recovered from the hopeless state of mind and body, what the hell are you doing speaking to another deal, especially when it comes to a life or death deal? And it just absolutely, it annoys me. And I hear so many excuses. Well, he's doing his best, not good enough. Well, that's what my sponsor took, not good enough. It's a wonder why the percentage rate has plummeted down to what it is. There's watered down God. Nobody wants to talk about God. Forbid we ever mention that name in a meeting. Right. And the second is power-crazed sponsors, who have no idea what they're talking about. And yet they go in and, well, this is the way I work my program. First of all, dumbass, it's not your program. It's the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. Oh, and this is the other one I get as well. I'm doing it the best way I can. Really? Did you go to the liquor store the best way you can, or did you get there? You didn't mess around. I'm doing the best I can. I'm doing it to the best of my ability. Shut up. Best of my ability, my backside. I've seen you fight 5 men and stab 2 people to get to the liquor store. Don't be coming that crap with me. And all of a sudden you want to start getting particular on what you're doing. Yeah. It just infuriates me. And have you seen that as well, Monty?
Yeah. Well, and there's this school of thought that says as long as you're a couple of steps ahead of the new guy coming in, you can sponsor him. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You haven't even, you're on step 2. You haven't even turned your will and your life over to the care of God yet. You haven't even experienced any of the promises of the steps. You haven't, all the promises in step 9, those haven't come true because you're not even close to step 9, What are you doing sponsoring somebody if you haven't had a spiritual awakening as a result of those steps? And may I just say, you cannot have a spiritual awakening as a result of steps you haven't done.
Exactly. I love that. It's true. You know, what somebody said to me a long time ago, I think it was Chris Raymond. He said to me, look, here's the deal. Because I was going round and I was pounding these messages out and I was getting verbally beaten down. He said, look, Rob, the only way you can do this is start your own meeting. People that want to have this deal will come. So we did. We started a meeting in San Antonio called Bring Your Own Big Book Meeting. And it's every Saturday morning. And we don't boss it. We don't rule it. But if you want to come in and get well, we're the place to come. You're not going to hear anything that's not already in the book. You're not going to hear any nonsense like if you feel like relapsing, take a bath, or any crazy stuff like that. You're going to get it hard and you're going to get a real deal, because I tell you what, we don't work in bakeries. We're not sugarcoating anything here. It's either you get it right or you get it wrong. And this is what people need to know when they come through the door, because we're blatant. You know, it's the only self-diagnosed illness in the world. So obviously you must know. 6 DUIs, I'm not making an alcoholic, peeps. I'm sorry, but it don't. So when you self-diagnose yourself and you go into a room and everything's falling down and you're broken, you want to hear some person, lady or man, come up to you and go, hey, first of all, it's going to be okay. And second, you're any good at following direction? Oh, and thirdly, when you take the first drink, can you stop? And that's how we qualify people. The book says we need to qualify these guys. You know?
Yes.
Can you imagine? I get about 6 people every week asking me to sponsor them. And almost all of the 6 do it because of who I am. They're not interested, you know?
Yes.
And I weed people out. I go, oh, you want me to sponsor you? Of course I will. It will be my pleasure. I just need to qualify you. I ask them then 3 questions. And then I say, tomorrow, can you call me at 1:17 p.m.? And can you call me again at 5:56 p.m. on the dot? If those guys that don't want it, never call. Never call on time. They call an hour. Oh, I forgot. Yeah, if you forgot, you don't want this as bad as I wanted it or everyone else wants it. It's a life or death deal.
Yeah, I mean, even the new guys that come into the Adult and Teen Challenge program, I sit down with them, and one of the first things I'll ask them, why are you here? Because not everybody that comes into our program are there for substance use disorder issues. There's other life controlling issues besides narcotics and alcohol. And on occasion, we'll get guys in there with behavioral addictions, right? Not substances. Yeah. So we got to find that out, obviously. And then I want to find out, are you an alcoholic? Are you a drug addict? Are you a drug abuser or an alcohol abuser? Because there is a difference. And they look at me, well, what's the difference? And then I'll explain to them the difference between, those who are alcohol abusers and those who are alcoholics, for instance. And they've never heard that before. And many of them have been to meetings, for at least a year or so, in and out of the rooms, and they've never heard such a thing. They just assumed that they were alcoholic because they got sent to the meetings by a loved one's suggestion or a nudge of the judge or whatever, and that made him an alcoholic. And I'm like, no. Listen, you can get a DUI, you can go to jail, you can lose your job, you can alienate your entire family. That does not make you an alcoholic. And the confusion on their face is understandable because they've been taught wrong.
Yeah, and it's generational as well.
And it's vitally
generational. You know, if you just think, or your dad just thinks he's an alcoholic, and he goes to these meetings, and he spent 10 years there, only to find out he can drink successfully. What a waste of life that was. I remember a friend of mine in Dallas, very good friend. He was kind of a manager for a bit, and him and his son used to go to AA meetings all the time. And his son went up to him one day and he said, "Dad, I don't think I'm an alcoholic." So Dad tried to talk him around, still coming to meetings. Anyway, he was that frustrated. He said, "Go and see Dr. Robb. Dr. Robb will sort you out." So he went to see me, thinking I would go, "Get back to them meetings, you clown. What are you doing?" But I talked to him for about 20 minutes. And I says, "In my opinion, I don't think you're an alcoholic. I mean, it's only for you to decide, but you're not showing the tendencies." It turns out he wasn't. And the friend, God bless him, Bob. I'm sorry we never spoke again, but I'd hate to see somebody go through this who really wasn't. Now, let's talk about the other side of the meetings. and the book is you get a fantastic way of life anyway, alcoholic or not.
Absolutely.
If you follow everything it says, I mean, your life just will get better, period. You know, it never will get worse if you follow the directions. But people right now, people at the moment, like the people I know, they're just very hard at not following directions because how the world has changed over the years. And it was bad enough before all the isolation came in and working from home and stuff, you know. But yeah, they're not very good at taking directions unless it instantly gratification benefits them.
Right.
And I found that time and time again. So let's look at what makes a good sponsor. And I don't know, I've worked with thousands of people over the years, just if you have, Monty. And I look at this. First of all, you're treating someone with integrity, first of all.
Yes.
You're speaking to him as an equal. And you have a full knowledge of your condition, but he doesn't. And you'd be surprised, again, you just mentioned it, Monty, that these people who have had a DUI and the wife or husband has sent them to AA because it's the only way to go and it's cheaper than treatment. You know, we need to look at that. But I will take someone through the program. I will guide them. You're not going to call me every day and ask what color socks to wear. We're never going to take long walks in the park together. And we're never going to be best friends. Or hell, I can get you to a place where you have a relationship with your God, a relationship that your life will become absolutely amazing. It's not my job to say whether you can date or not. That's not my choice. If I say yes and you do and you die, if I say no and you've relapsed and die, I mean, that's not my job.
That's right.
I may give my opinion as it relates to my experience, but you're not going to be wearing blue shoes on a Wednesday and call me every single day and, you know, tell me what you had for dinner last night. That's not the way the sponsor works.
Yeah.
It's purely take you through. And I've seen some great sponsors who still think they are part-time counselors or amateur counselors. I've heard one person say to another, listen, you need to come off that medication because if you keep taking that medication for your mental health, you know, you're not really clean and sober. As a person in a 12-step meeting, shut up. You know, shut up.
Yeah, that's not your place.
You can't be telling somebody like that.
Yeah, that is definitely and let me go back to the one thing about the difference between alcoholism and the alcoholic. Isn't it vitally important that, like you said, the sponsor has a knowledge of the alcoholic condition? So because he needs to be able to determine if this guy, you know, what's the book say? Being convinced. We were now at step whatever, right? And so if you're not convinced, I mean, it's really gonna have an impact on how the person's recovery program is laid out, whether they're alcoholic or just an alcohol abuser, right?
Exactly. And there's a fine line. You know, to the average eye, there's a fine line between the heavy drinker and the alcoholic. You know, one goes there for company and gets excited and gets some knowledge about what he can be, and the other needs complete health first of all. You know, they used to always say to me, it's not a race, Rob. Well, it was for me. I was dying of untreated alcoholism every single day. It was hey, don't be so hard on yourself, Rob. The book says we must always be hard on ourselves, but considerate from others. So when somebody comes in, if you've not gone through all this, the first 164, spiritual awakening, psychic change, and listen to this, peeps, when them two happen, your DNA changes. Why is that important? Because the book says the same man will drink again. So when you have all this knowledge, you've had this change, you've been reborn, and you are this amazing person, then you're able to give advice to somebody. Because one alcoholic to another is absolutely amazing. But what's the old saying, Monty? You can't pass on something you haven't got.
You don't have. That's right.
You know, warm cups of coffee at nighttime in your house will not keep you sober. 90 meetings in 10 days will not keep you sober. Mm-hmm. It's not the meetings we make, it's the steps we take every single time. And the sponsor needs to know this, that you have, and it's, I love the way it says in the book, the desperation of a drowning man,
mm-hmm.
which we breeze over real quick when we say it. But can you imagine for a second if you was drowning in the sea and miles away from anywhere, Monty, and you were fighting for your life because the storms were booming and you couldn't breathe, and I swim up and go, hey, how much is your car payment, Monty? You go, I'm drowning here. How much is your mortgage? You know, and what are you going to worry about tomorrow, Monty? You know, that's the visualization that I get, is the desperation of a drowning man. How bad do you want it? You know, and when you go in these rooms looking for the sponsor, interview them. Don't just let some clown come over and get. If anybody comes over, hey, listen, I'll sponsor you. Run, okay, run. The book says that his attention should be drawn to you, a recovered alcoholic, and choose wisely, my friends, because I've got a real big news break here. Not everybody in AA is alcoholic. Okay.
Right.
And in fact, I must say recently over the last 15 years from the traveling that I'm doing, that anytime, anywhere, in any room, there's at least 70% of the people that are not the real deal. That's what you're up against as a newcomer. But You'll see.
I agree.
You'll see. You'll see who's good and who's bad. You'll see.
Listen, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, I have a question for you that is in regard to in some meetings, and don't answer yet, Dr. Robb, but in some meetings where they ask for sponsors to volunteer to raise their hands. We'll address that one right after this. Don't go away. Hey, listen, I get it. I get that there's controversy around the whole CBD thing in the recovery community. But remember, contempt prior to investigation. So let me help you out here for a minute. Founded by a father and son in addiction recovery, Exact Nature's all-natural CBD products are specially formulated to help you face the exceptional challenges of recovery, be it addictive cravings, depression, anxiety, or even improving your sleep. Listen, learn more at exactnature.com. And as a Take 12 Recovery Radio listener, use the code TAKE12 and you'll receive a 20% discount on your order. Oh, and by the way, there is no THC in Exact Nature products. So you might not get high, but you might just get to feeling better. That's Exact Nature at exactnature.com.
I had this illness that really made me powerless over alcohol, and that insisted that I got drunk. And so I got drunk. It doesn't have anything to do with trying to control it. An alcoholic who picks up the first drink will pick up the second drink. I can't say to anyone, no, don't drink. But I can say that when you decide you don't want to drink, come to AA. The door to AA is always open. Alcoholics Anonymous. It works. Look us up. Check your phone book, newspaper, or AA.org.
Hey, it's Artie Kornfeld, and you're listening to Take 12 Radio, recovery talk, and positive music.
Well, welcome back to the show. This is the Robb Kelly Hour, a production of Take 12 Recovery Radio and KHLT Recovery Broadcasting. We're broadcasting to you on the beautiful outskirts of Albany, Oregon, in beautiful Oregon here, where the weather is a little bit damp, unlike San Antonio. And we are on the phone with our friend, the world's addiction doctor, Dr. Robb Kelly, talking about sponsorship. So, in some meetings, I have witnessed the chairperson, usually at the end of the meeting, say, if there's anybody here that would like to volunteer as a sponsor, raise their hand. And some meetings, one hand will go up. Some meetings, half the room's hands will go up. And I always am curious about that, because I'm like, if I'm a newcomer, heck, as somebody that's been around that meeting for a while, even I don't know who's had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps. How do I know who's qualified to be a sponsor? What's your take on that, Robb?
Well, I think that obviously we actually do. I think most meetings in Texas do that. But just because you raise your hand doesn't qualify you to be a sponsor. So just be careful of that, guys, when you're seeing all these people put their hands up. But it's the way they carry themselves. It's the way they talk. It's that they will have time for you when you walk up to them and ask them a question. And again, qualify them. That's a simple thing to do. So it's good. I never raise my hand. And the reason why I don't is that you should be able to tell if I share in a meeting, the way I walk in, the way I greet everybody, the way I speak, the way I act, you should tell that I am the real deal. So people are drawn to that. I have to tell you, people are drawn to that. I've been in meetings where 50 people have put their hand up to be sponsors and 3 people didn't. And one of them 3 people were me, and 2 people came up and asked me to sponsor them. So that's what I think it's all about. So I think it's good, and I think, each to them own, autonomous kind of thing. But yeah, it's and if if you're struggling and don't know, and this is your first time, start speaking to one of them guys. Go up, and at least you get the connection into the group, and you'll see as you go along. If any sponsor asks you to do a step a month, you need to say you're not going to be working out. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Unless you're not the real deal. In that case, do a step a year. It's awesome. Just go through it. You will become a better person. When we're talking about the real deal, when little Johnny sat at the back of the room, dying of untreated alcoholism, then war stories from non-alcoholics or heavy drinkers will kill people like me and you. So it's all about knowledge. It's all about trusting people when you first walk in. But just because you said hi to somebody, the guy doesn't need to sponsor you. It's your choice. This is your life that we're dealing with. You should be able to gel with this person and know that something is right. See how much respect other people have for these guys walking in the room. That's a good indicator.
Sure. Okay, so one of the things you hit on was integrity. So I'm going to pick on sober living environments for a minute. One of the things that I've noticed about many sober living homes is that abstinence from narcotics and alcohol is absolutely, I mean, they drive that home. They'll do UAs. If you show up drinking or using, you're going to get a 30-day out, so they don't put up with that at all. But it seems like every other behavior under the sun is totally welcome in the sober living home. Now, not all of them, I grant you, but many of the mainstream ones, that's what's going on. So you're a roommate and you come home from work, you've worked hard all week, you're doing your best to stay sober, you're working the steps, you're going to meetings, and you come home and there's a sock on your door, and you can't even get in your room because somebody's boinking the neighbor gal or whatever. All these behaviors are allowed in the sober living home, but doggone it, you better not drink or use or we're going to boot you out of here. Now, in my opinion, that is a lack of integrity on the part of the sober living home. I see that same kind of thing sometimes in sponsors. They're pushing the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, but their personal life, they're just doing anything and everything except drinking and using. How in the heck do we follow a guy like that?
Thing is, you can't. I mean,
you can't.
Look at these. There are a couple of places that I have high regard for, and obviously one of them is Teen Challenge. But these sober houses, you just got to be really careful. I visit a few. I get offers every single week to go visit people because they want my business.
Yeah.
And it's just they talk about cash flow. They talk about cash input. They talk how many people they've got staying at their house. I'm not interested in that. I walk up to the nearest person and I talk to them. What's it like this house? Can you bring girls in here? If you drink, do you get thrown out? What's your behavior like? Do you all line up for lunch? This is what life's all about. Listen, guys, this has got nothing to do with drinking, okay? This is everything to do with behavior, integrity, clearing the mind, and making sure the neural pathways are changed so the hypothalamus doesn't tell us to drink. Because the brain's not allergic to alcohol. Flash news. It's allergic to the ethanol in alcohol. Mm-hmm. Once we take the alcohol away, the allergy goes away because it's not in our body. But the mindset, the self-sabotaging neural pathways are still there. So drinking, I always tell people when they come here, Robb Kelly Recovery Group, drinking is guaranteed from day one. I'll give you your money back if you drink again. It's not about that. It's about quality of life. It's about leaders. It's about wanting to better the world. It's about going the extra mile when you're tired at night time and somebody calls you at 3 a.m. and you've got work at 5 to get up and do the right thing and answer that phone. All these things was what I'm talking when you see a sponsor. He will do all these things. It will be like this Superman that's not real. But the problem is that we are real and we do act like this. The amount of offers I get and phone numbers of can't believe how young women come to me after speaking and give me their phone numbers. We're talking about 21, 22 years old up to about 30. I'm 60 years old. But the powerful, the force, the reputation, the notoriety on TV and everything, that's what they see. I pass it on to my wife and we have a good laugh about it. You see, I could easily do that, Monty. So then I'm talking the talk, but I'm a walking the walk. No. So for people like me, I don't get to get away with that stuff. You see, I get all these magic gifts. I get all these promises. I have an amazing life. I get to save people's lives. I do all this, but I can't do that. Otherwise, I'd relapse. I can't go to the garage and they give me $10 extra in the change, and I can't walk off and going, wow, I just got 10. I can't do that. If I drop a piece of paper and there's nobody around, I need to pick that up and put it in the trash can.
Yes.
That's what we're talking about.
Yes.
We're not talking about, look, when nobody else sees you, God does. So what are you going to do? My grandfather always says, I never met him, but this is what Mama told me. When you meet somebody, look at what kind of watch they're wearing and look at the shoes. And I said, shoes, Mom, what's that about? Look if they polish the front of the shoes and look if they polish the back. If they polish the front, it's all for show. But if they polish the whole shoe, the back and the heel, they're the real deal. And that has set me in good stead all of my life.
Yeah, and see, this is something that concerns me. I'll give you an example. There was a bunch of us a few years ago that went to go see a movie. We were all from a 12-step fellowship, and we were all going to go see this movie. And this guy who was pretty well known, he sponsored a few people. People were kind of attracted to him as far as sponsorship goes. He was coaching these new guys on how to sneak candy into the movie theater when it was clearly posted on the door of the movie theater, no outside food. Now,
you see right there, Monty, that he loses integrity right there.
Exactly. It goes out it goes out the window.
We do shopping for the group, and we have two cards. We have the group card, which I'm the money guy there, and we have our own. So I'm walking through, and even I will say something. Hey, do you think we could put a couple of things in the other stuff and not claim for it? And she's always adamant. She will have two carts. She puts the different things, and my wife has taught me a lot, even from the smallest thing. It can't be done. Well, I tell you what, if I do this, I don't have to pay my taxes as much. I can leave. No, you have to pay it. Or if you can't pay it, you have to make payment plans to pay it. Right. And then your life takes off. See, nothing is free in this world. There's a price to pay.
Yeah.
As simple as that. There's a price always to pay. But what a small price to pay for the huge rewards that we get from this. When I first took somebody through the book and took them through the steps and everything after the full knowledge of their condition, on step 12, which for me was the second day after step 5, go home, the book says. Mm-hmm. So the second day to go up, and his look was different. His walk was different. His confidence was different. I remember thanking God and thinking that's the best thing in the world I've ever seen and ever about to see, until I walked into a room and he was sat down with a newcomer going through the book just like I did with him. Then that became the most important visual miracle in my life, until I saw that guy sitting down with another bunch of guys, and it's just like miracle after miracle after miracle. So you can't sneak candy into the cinema, unfortunately. It doesn't work like that, no matter how small.
Right. Yeah, because if you're breaking your moral standing in something small, you're going to break it in something big. And what kind of example are you setting? Let me ask you a question when it comes to sponsors and telephone calls. I know you're adamant about you're not going to call me every day, but do you have a policy on how late they can call you, or is it 24/7?
24/7 usually. And I say, listen, here's the deal. You check in with me once a day via text, so I know you're still alive. When you need to call me, you call me anytime. I'm going to answer. You don't have to do it every day. And then once a week, Sunday is my sponsees. So they all line up on Zoom, and I do an hour with all my sponsees, and then we meet twice a week at the meeting. So, yeah, some people go, there's a limit, after 12 o'clock, don't disturb me. I don't know, Monty. You're either in or you're out.
Yeah.
I think sponsors need to be looking more at, I'm being a sponsor. I can sponsor a lot of guys now. You need to start asking yourself, you've got their lives in your hand, because they don't know any different. And hell, don't even bother going to the doctors or a medical fraternity for an answer, because they haven't got one. So it's down to you, Right. It's down to you. And if you start taking them calls at crazy hours, because the sponsor already knows that it has to be urgent before he calls you. And if he's drunk, don't call me, wait till you're sober the next day. And I'm not going to come and bring you a ride from a bar somewhere because you're drunk and I'm your sponsor. That's not going to happen. If you call me like that, I will drop you. You're not ready for me. I'm too harsh and brutally straightforward for you like that. So I'm there for them, but there's a big boundary. There's some of the things you can't do. And I think what happens with that, Monty, is it puts them in good stead for their future. And they will go on. And I've heard people say in the rooms that I've been in, sometimes I go to a room I've never been in before, and I hear them speaking like me. When they're sharing, they go, hey, we're never going to be best friends. We're never going to walk. It's like, it's amazing, but we're setting them up the way that this is the deal. You know, I'm not a money bank. Although I, personally, if you move in your apartment, I will buy your furniture for you. You know, I will buy you a small car, but if you ask for anything, you don't get nothing. So I nurture these guys into becoming men and women and leaders, because more leaders need to be born. And the way you learn a leader is you take them exactly the way you were taught via the book and principles, and go back to the early days, you know, when they all dressed appropriately, they acted appropriately, and they took this thing real serious. We're still in the same situation in 1939, guys, because the medical fraternity is still baffled. And what I want to say as well, which just comes to me now, is people often say to me, like, well, you're a medical, you know, guy, you're in the industry, and what do you mean you don't know? And I always say this one thing. In 1938 and early 39, when they were writing that book, they talked about a psychic change. A psychic is not somebody who sits around a crystal ball telling you. Psychic, like psychologists, psychiatrists, change. They talked about this in 1939. Only 10 years ago, the medical fraternity found out that the brain is like plastic. It's called neuroplasticity, and we can change neural pathways. It's the same thing as a psychic change. So then you go back and you look at that book and you realize how far advanced you are, you know. And so medical fraternity can't help you. It's about being a good man or woman, making sure other people know it so they can come to you and living life on life's terms. Because if you're not having fun by step 3, something's wrong, guys. Something is wrong.
Yeah. I always chuckle when somebody say, "Oh, recovery's no fun." I'm like, well, then you're not in recovery, evidently, because, I was at my lowest and I was having a blast. Hey, let me ask you a question about this. Sponsor dependency. That concerns me within the fellowships, because in the chapter Working with Others, it's very clear. It says, remind the prospect, so the prospect's the newcomer, remind the prospect that his recovery isn't dependent upon people, but is dependent on his relationship with God. We have people that are walking around meeting dependent. We have people that are walking around sponsor dependent. And I'm not talking about newcomers. I'm talking about people that have been around a while.
Yeah.
And if they can't get a hold of their sponsor, they're drinking. If they can't get to a meeting, they're drinking. What's wrong with that picture, Dr. Robb?
Problem is that, you know, first of all, if any of my sponsors said they need a meeting, I'll slap them. I tell them categorically that from the outset. You know, this is not about meetings. The fellowship is amazing. I like meeting new people once a week. The book says go to one meeting a week. The book is Alcoholics Anonymous. It's not the meetings. That's another surprise for some people.
Right.
So if you're reading that book and you have a sponsor, great. If he goes away for 3 weeks on vacation, is not checking his phone, then you have that relationship with God. And I'm going to say it again, a relationship, not a knowledge, not a belief in God, a relationship. You see, what the book says is no human power can relieve my alcoholism. Your sponsor can't do that.
Right.
Are you kidding me? Your sponsor's absolutely useless when it comes to that. So that relationship and God. So, you know, if you're dependent on your sponsor for anything, you really need to look at you're a real alcoholic or not. Or are you just doing this because you're bored, or your wife's died and you're lonely, whatever it is, because the book never mentions sponsor. It mentions spiritual advisor once. And it says call somebody, it says call someone. It doesn't say call your sponsor. So, yeah, you can't be dependent on it, because every human being sooner or later will let you down.
Amen.
You know, one of my early sponsors, Monty, and I got careful what I say because I know the listeners are awesome on here, but I met him in a meeting. He sponsored me for a couple of weeks, and he took me back to his house, and I was gonna read the book and do the steps, and he drugged my coffee with sleeping tablets, about 10 of them, and I woke up next day and I was naked, and he was next to me. That's my sponsor of 45 years.
Wow.
So I don't hold I have these many years. It doesn't mean I never give my sobriety to that. What's the point? You can tell I've recovered. You can tell that I'm going to make things happen because I'm a go-getter, you know?
Yeah.
So if I never met you before, Monty, and we met in a train station somewhere and we spoke for a second, I'd know in an instant that you're a recovered alcoholic, and you would know in an instant that I was a recovered alcoholic.
You bet. Absolutely. And that's a beautiful thing, man. That is a bond that this whole thing it creates when we do it the way it's lined out to do it. When we start cheating ourselves and others by jumping around, by becoming dependent on other people in order to be okay in our own skin, then we're in deep weeds. And you and I see it all the time. Guys that come back into the Adult and Teen Challenge Center, for instance, are just like some of the guys that have left the rooms of recovery and come back. I hear the same story. It isn't because they walked away from the meeting that they relapsed. It's because they failed to develop a relationship with a power greater than themselves that they relapse. That's always the case. And
people ask me all the time, when a relapse, when a relapse, listen, first of all, alcoholism is never going to come to you on a Monday and go, hey, Rob, let's have a drink today. It's always a couple of days, even a week before is when your relapse is. Mm-hmm. So you really need to get a full knowledge of your condition when you're looking at alcoholism. I often talk about the hypothalamus and the way that's tangled in, because it tells the alcoholic to drink alcohol, but it tells a normal person to drink water and eat food. It's the survival part of the brain. All that stuff we don't know. So when your brain's telling you to drink alcohol, you don't have any choice at the time. So if you find that you're out there and you're just drinking and can't stop, you may need to go into treatment for a month or so, see how you go, because you might not still be an alcoholic, even though your life's gone to crap. But I'm telling you now, categorically, guys, and I'm telling you this, that if you're not working your program, you are working your problem. And that's just the bottom line. There's only one or two ways we go. There's no middle of the road solution for us, the book says. I don't do half of nothing. If I go into the sandwich shop, I say to my friend, what do you want, Jimmy? He goes, hey, give me a sandwich. Is that it? Yeah, what do you want, Rob? Give me 2 sandwiches, 3 bags of chips, and 2 cans of Coke. You see, I'm all or nothing. I'm never halfway in, and that's another trait of the alcoholic, is that when we get rid of all that stuff, because it's not about the alcohol, by the way, the alcohol is just a symptom. When we clear the wreckage from our past, when we clear the trauma up, when we clear all that stuff and the trauma and the body and everything like that, what happens is our life becomes amazing because we can think straight. And what happens in the head is the neural pathways from self-sabotaging, 70% self-sabotage, 30% kind and good neural pathways that alcoholics usually have. So 70% becomes 30, and the 30% comes 70. So now I have kind of things to say about myself. I'm more interested in life. I look around, I see the trees, I see the grass, I hear the birds for the first time in 20 years. That's living. And when you get to that point, don't let anybody tell you that you can't achieve your dreams, because you can. I'm living proof. From homelessness, I was born on a trailer park, from homelessness to one of the best minds in the modern addiction world. That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Absolutely unbelievable. But that's the way it is. And if I can do it, you can do it. I wish I could sit here and tell you how clever I am, but I'm not. You do A and B, and God will put C in place like you would never believe.
Yeah, you just do the math. Do the math.
I'm going to get a T-shirt and send it to you. Do the math. Do the math,
man. I mean, I just, sometimes I pinch myself. I remember waking up in the back of my pickup truck in downtown Houston, in the Montrose district of Houston, Texas. If anybody knows what that is, it's one of the worst areas of Houston. And I'm not from Texas. I just ended up in Texas. You know how we end up places, right? And I ended up in Texas, and I'm looking around and I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, how did this happen? How did I get here? I'm homeless. I'm from Northern California. What, Texas? What the heck? And looking up in the sky, seeing the night sky and thinking to myself, that's the same sky the people in my life that love me are looking at right now, wondering what the heck happened to Monty. And thinking back on that night compared to today, there is, just the common person would see no possible way that transition could take place. It is only by the hand of a loving God and the application and implementation of those 12 directives that I was able to develop a relationship with him and be where I'm at today. And it's the most marvelous thing that has ever happened in my life. And folks, you don't want to miss it.
That's the point. Exactly.
Yeah.
Forget about the not drinking. It's not about the drinking. How much do you want to live life? How do you want all these miracles to come true that you never thought? How do you want to be? I used to walk in a room once, when I was still drinking, and partly when I'd recovered, I used to walk in the room and I used to look around and thinking, how many people like me today?
Mm-hmm.
Today, I walk into a room and I look around and think, how many people do I like today? They're given confidence with this program. They're given respect of this program. The interviewer, the interviewee, you can be in both places and have that respect. It's all about honor. Go back to the early days back in England centuries ago when these men were men. This is what the world still needs. Not as if woman can't be woman. I'm not saying that. It's just that everybody needs to be led somewhere. Everybody needs a leader. If you go to church, your pastor is your leader. If you hang around in 12 steps rooms, recovered alcoholics, recovered addicts are your leaders. And we need to be strong and we need to be powerful. Listen, my father had a stroke and they didn't think he was going to come out of it on Saturday morning at 5 a.m. I got a call from England. He was going to die. That's what he told us.
Oh, wow.
I went at 9:30 and I taught a book study, which is one of the best book studies I've ever taught. And then somehow I chaired the meeting and I was happy and joyous and free. And only a couple of weeks ago when they found out that my father almost died, they couldn't believe it. And I said to them, what I'm going through is none of your concern. When I come to these meetings, they should be pep rallies. I'm not going to come and dump my stuff on you. That's not what I'm about. I'm about inspiring somebody. See, my dad could be in a bed waiting to die, but little Johnny in the corner hears something that sets him on a program that saves his life and millions of others with the ripple effect. Where would I rather be? Where would God want me to be? I know he'd want me to be at a meeting and not be miserable or moaning. I've done enough crying in Alcoholics Anonymous rooms for both of us and hundreds of us. I've done that. I've grown. I'm still sympathetic in my private life. But as far as when I go into meetings or I meet other people, I might be the only face that day that somebody sees who's just about to go off and blow his head off. And I want to be that guy, Monty, because there was one person on the streets that helped me, that didn't give up on me. And I always want to be that one guy that doesn't give up on you. But you need to be serious about this stuff. Yeah, you really do.
One of the most valuable things my sponsor ever taught me was I was going to this one meeting for years. It was what some would call a beginner's meeting, and I went to this thing for years. I mean, years. I went to this thing, and I told my sponsor one day. His name was Bruce. I said, Bruce, I can't come here anymore. He goes, what are you talking about? I said, I'm not getting spiritually fed. And he just laughed. He laughed so hard. He goes, you stupid jerk. You're not here to get fed. You're here to become of maximum service to God and the people he puts in your life. Your job is to find out where you can be of service to the alcoholic who still suffers. You're not coming here for you. And I thought, what a concept. Right?
Yeah. It's amazing. It's amazing when we just stand and we look what's around. I remember going to a meeting once and it was a pressurized meeting. Everyone knew who I was. Some people were there trying to impress me, which doesn't impress me at all. But I remember one guy stood up and he said, listen, relapse is part of the disease, guys. Don't worry. It's okay if you relapse. Listen, just choose a God, of your own understanding. Never says that in the book. It says, as you understand him as to be a God. There's 1,200 gods in the world. Just pick one, and all this stuff. And I stood up after him and I said one sentence and I walked out. I said, how many people have you killed with that line? And the room, you could hear a pin drop.
Yeah.
And I walked out. I'm not staying in meetings. I'm done with going in trying to change meetings. You're not going to do it.
You're not going to change it.
I've tried so many times. You're not going to do it.
No.
So what happens is you build a stadium and people will follow. And that's exactly what we've done. You know where we are, guys. If you want to get well, you know where we are.
Yeah.
That's the place.
If you stay at a meeting for the purpose of trying to change it, you become a bleeding deacon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm sick of being that. I was that guy. I was very aggressive when I was young, trying to get this message over. But, I upset a lot of people by doing that. And, of course, that's not the intention. So as I aged, I realized that I stick to myself. I announce myself as a recovered alcoholic. And if they don't like it, that's okay. Because, listen, guys, this is when it all changed for me. This was years into recovery, but this is where it all changed for me. The day I stopped worrying about what you thought of me was the day I started living life. You've only got to look at how I dress. Right now I have a flowery yellow and pink shirt on with sky blue shorts and a pink pair of sneakers. I don't care. This is what I'm living life for, to be me and help you. I'm not fighting anybody anymore. I'm not fighting anything anymore. I just know, my life is amazing. So I have a good friend of mine who's a very famous rapper. And he said to me, somebody said to me, how amazing your life. And he said, yeah, you want a dope life? You have to do dope stuff. And dope means amazing, not the dope, if you know what I mean.
Right.
But you've got to start doing amazing stuff. Start thinking that you are that guy in that management position. Start thinking that you're going to change the world. Whatever you come up with, you're going to change the world, because you are. I've never seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Never. And I'm not talking, I've worked with 6,500, almost 7,000 people, Monty.
Yeah.
I used to hold book studies in Manchester with 600 people in there at a time, all going through the steps. At the time, it was crazy days, and I would attack it, and millions of people recovered and got their lives back. That's what it's all about. We're either in or we're out.
Good word, my friend. Good word. Well, we're almost out of time, Dr. Robb. By the way, I must say that I love your wardrobe. That's I do. I do. These Hawaiian shirts and shorts. I mean, I'm into dressing for the comfort. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I don't mean to pick on anybody out there, but what's up with the skinny jeans, guys? Give yourself a break, man. What's up with that? You're walking. I know you're uncomfortable, man. I'm into the comfort. The baggier, the better, baby.
Yes. Oh, yes. Definitely.
Definitely. My goodness. All right. Sponsorship. Any closing thoughts from Dr. Robb Kelly?
I want to say something to everyone out there, especially if you're suffering from alcoholism, especially with the thought patterns and the traits that is alcoholism, that you're never good enough, you never be anybody, and you never amount to anything. I want to tell you this, guys. Somebody lied to you. That's not true. We are born with $1 million minds. Please stop hanging around 10-cent lines. You're amazing. You can do this. And listen, here's the deal, guys. Because everyone says, hey, Dr. Robb, put your money where your mouth is, what I always do. 214-600-0210 is my personal, not my secretary's or my front desk, my personal cell phone number. If you're going through it right now and you think there's no way out, I will give you a 10-minute pep talk that will change your life. Because at the bottom line, I'd rather receive a phone call off you than attend your funeral.
That's powerful. Yeah. Folks, you heard it. If you want that number again, just rewind and play it. There it is for you, out there in the universe forever. Dr. Robb Kelly offering his services up for you to help you get hit that reset button. And sometimes we just need to do that, don't we, Dr. Robb?
Oh, we do. I mean, when we say thank you to somebody, dopamine's released into our brain. If we'd all just nicer to each other, the world would be great. Be that guy. Be that guy that's nice. It's not hip to be nice to everybody. Believe me, everyone wants to act tough in this world. You're not tough. You just have problems from childhood that you haven't sorted out yet.
Right.
So let's start being nice to each other. Let's love each other, and let's march this road of, not to, happy destiny.
That's right. That's right. Dr. Robb, thank you so much. Speedy recovery, and we will talk to you again next month, my brother, as we close out, really, National Recovery Month. So we'll see you next month, bud.
Bye, guys. Thank you for listening.
Okay, brother. All right. Our closing song for this show is by Barry J, and it's entitled On a Night Like This. So if you've had one of these nights when everything just goes to hell in a handbasket, maybe it's been a relapse. Maybe your world, you feel like is closing in and falling down around you. Listen, God's grace is far-reaching. Remember, our dependency is upon God, not on the powerlessness of ourselves, but on God. If I'm powerless, left to my own devices, and you're powerless, left to your own devices, 0 plus 0 is 0. We need a power greater than ourselves. So on a night like this, no matter how bad it is, there is saving grace. Here's Barry J's song, on a night like this.
You have loved me, you have saved me many times before. Give me as I ask of you, for the strength once more to lift me from this place. Feels like an abyss. Will you be my saving grace on a night like this? Many nights I'd numb the pain and hide from all my fears. Turned to pills, believed cocaine for far too many years. So tempted to retrace, I wonder what I'd miss. Will you be my saving grace on a night like this? On a night like this, I feel as if there's nothing left to lose. On a night like this, oh, I don't know which way I'm gonna choose. On a night like this, will I be sober in the morning sun? If I slip, will I recover? Has the devil won? If I leave without a trace, am I someone you would miss? Will you be my saving grace on a night like this? On a night like this, I wanna use and oh, I wanna drink. On a night like this, I don't wanna lose and I don't wanna think. On a night like this, you have saved me. Will you help me out once more? On a night like this, I'm so afraid to end up like before. The voice inside my head won't let me get to sleep. If temptation wins tonight, God knows what I would read. On a night like this, I feel as if there's nothing left to lose. On a night like this, I don't know which way I'm gonna choose. On a night like this, will you save me? Spare me here once more. On a night like this, I come before you, desperate and unsure. The tears run down my face as I reminisce. Will you be my saving grace on a night like this? Will you be my saving grace on a night like this?
What a powerful song, requesting grace from the Creator, and He is always willing and able to grant it on a night like this. All right, a very special thank you going out to our incredible co-host, the world's addiction doctor, Dr. Robb Kelly, on this episode of the Robb Kelly Hour. All right, don't forget, Wednesday, it's another Monty Man's Recovery Meditorial. And then on Saturday, it's Radio Rehab, The Road to Redemption, 30 minutes of recovery-focused music and recovery commentary with our friend Brian Duncan. And then on Monday, it's the great reality show, the Take 12 Recovery radio show with co-host and myself with powerful topics and our experience, strength, and hope. Coming to you from the world's original recovery talk and recovery music radio station, Take 12 Recovery Radio. You can find us at take12radio.com and on all major podcasting platforms. Until our next show, this is the Monty Man, along with the Take 12 Recovery Radio family, and we are wishing God's perfect serenity for you.
This has been a broadcast of Take 12 Recovery Radio and KHLT Recovery Broadcasting.
Kitty, 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 kitty. Meow, meow, meow.
Woof, woof.